It's January 4th, 2017. Are you used to saying that yet? I know I'm not. But we have a very exciting show for you. We're going to line out the top 10 stories of 2016. And we have a bonus for you that are watching. If you can guess the number one story, we have a free prize for you from our sponsor, Blue Armor. It's the only supplement company for law enforcement, by law enforcement. They are GMP certified, good manufacturing practices. By the way, the supplements you're taking most likely are not. It's the highest quality you can buy. We love their safety stack. We love everything they're doing there. If you're looking to hit those New Year's resolutions and lose a little weight, they have a product called Lean. You can go to the website, bluearmor.com, B-L-U armor.com. It lines it all out, but here's what we want you to do. Myself and our guests, who I will introduce here in a second, are going to talk about the top 10 stories for 2016. If you can guess the number one story, just start leaving comments on Facebook. And whoever leaves the comment that talks about the number one story, now you got to leave the comment before we get to the story, we're going to send you free product from Blue Armor, so be sure to check that out. So I want to introduce our guests. We have a lot to talk about today and a short time to do it. And first off, before I do that, please share this on your timeline. We're the only live television show for law enforcement being done by law enforcement here at lawofficer.com, and we want you to please share this on your timeline so we can spread the word. There's been such media bashing of law enforcement in 2016 and so far in 2017 that we've got to get this information out there because we're talking about issues that, quite frankly, the public needs to hear. So just do us a favor, hit share, spread it around. If you catch this show late, it's always archived on our website at lawofficer.com. You can go up to the top of our website. You'll see the media section, and you'll see all of our archive videos. And the guests that we have on the day is notorious for being the most watched guest ever on Law Officer Live. It was last July. She was on the show. She was talking about guns. Her name is Dianna Muller. Muller. I get that wrong every time. How are you doing?
You can just go back to Lydorf.
Dianna is a 22-year veteran street cop. Now, she's now retired, but she did over 2 decades in the street. Okay, so that is unique in itself. Anybody to do 2 decades in the street, many people sit in their profession like me. I mean, you kind of skip around. You do some time in the street, do some time on the desk, you kind of skip around. Dianna, she knows what's up. She did what was fun all of her life. She was in the streets, being a street police officer, helping out the citizens of her community. Now, she is sponsored by many folks. She's a professional three-gun shooter competitor. She hosts a TV show on, what channel is it?
Outdoor channel is the Shooting Gallery that I'm
the Shooting Gallery, co-host of that. So she's a professional on the show today. I'm just playing her, right?
That's right.
So we're going to talk about the top 10 stories of 2016. Before we do that, Dianna, tell me what your 2016 was like. How did it go for you?
2016 was amazing. It was busy. This was my second full year of being retired and being into the new career of professional shooting. And, you know, it kind of goes past that because we're not like basketball. We don't get paid as pros. We're not getting paid millions of dollars. So we kind of have to supplement. If you're going to do this full time, you have to supplement. You have to go do gigs on TV and try to bring
Come
more.
on, Law Officer Live.
Yeah. This is you're paying my bills this week.
That's right. Actually, maybe for 3 hours or so. Right?
At least dinner.
Right, there you go. There you go. So you did I've told this to cops a lot, that there is life after this job, but so many of us are timid or scared to walk away because at the end of the day, it is security. It's a paycheck, it's a government job, but you made that decision, and you could have stayed on a little longer, but you made that decision to go ahead and leave at 22 years, and kind of what helped you make that decision?
Well, I had something to go to.
Right.
So my suggestion would be to don't invest only in one basket.
Right.
You know, if you don't have a big friends or if you don't have any hobbies, look into that and start giving yourself somewhere else besides just to the police department.
And you had the luxury that you were able to do something after the job that was a hobby, but then you made it a career. So it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it really is. And you know, honestly, I've told people the structure that we had from the police department, that was the biggest thing for me to overcome because I knew when I was going to go to work. I knew when I was going to get off, most likely.
Right.
And I knew what I was going to do it for a year at a time. And I knew how that system worked. Well, then when you go, you retire. And even though I was doing something that I loved, it was very difficult for me on the time management part. And
Right.
I was saying yes to everything. And I would start 10 things. I would wake up at 6:30 in the morning or 5:30 in the morning. And I'd have something on my mind. And I would go to the computer. And my husband would yell at me. He's like, "You've got to stop."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there has been a learning curve on how to do the business part of
Yeah.
this and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it's been
That's good
it's
stuff.
been exciting.
Well, I know we have a lot of people that watch that want to get into three gun, so we'll give your contact information at the end. If we miss that, just contact us here at Law Officer. We'll get you in contact.
Or
with
they can
Dianna.
ask questions while we're here,
Yeah.
and we'll be able to.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, interact.
Go to YouTube and type in Dianna, because not just Dianna, that'd be weird, but Dianna.
Might get some Dianna Ross. might get
Type
some-
in Dianna's name, type in our name, you'll get some of her YouTube videos. It's pretty cool stuff. And so we're going to talk about the top 10 stories for 2016. And number 10 is Chicago breaks an all-time homicide record with 762 homicides. What's going on in Chicago?
Well, I would have guessed that to be number one, actually.
That's how good the show's going to be.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We're starting
Yeah,
with really
that's
good
right.
stuff on number
That's right.
10. Chicago, it wasn't a month ago that I saw Rahm Emanuel on the TV talking about, he was worried about the sanctuary city issue, but he's trying to assure the citizens, I guess, the illegal aliens, that they're safe.
Yeah.
But holy cow.
Well, he fires McDonald, the commissioner, early in the year, superintendent early in the year, when that guy had really brought Chicago to a very progressive state. He was doing some really good stuff. So he fires him. I forget who he gets now, but I did hear the new superintendent say, talk about these kids don't have any hope. They need jobs. They need this. They need that. There are some serious problems going on in Chicago, and I didn't like the 60 Minutes piece that really they just blame the cops for it. How do you blame the cops for everybody shooting each other, right? There's a lot of deep-seated issues there. So as a law enforcement agency, where do you start if you're sitting in Chicago, Illinois, and your city just had almost 800 homicides? Where do you even start?
Well,
And let me give you some perspective. Baltimore had like 250. So
Right.
I mean, that's how bad Chicago is right now.
It's terrible. Well, you can look at it from the police department side, but you can also look at it from the community side. I mean, you're a citizen in that community, and you're like, what can, don't sit on your laurels and say, this
Right.
is the police department's problem. What can you do
Right.
to make a difference in your community? Because that has to be where it comes from. The change within the black community has to come within the black community.
Yeah, you mentioned black community, and the fact is about 85% are African American. African Americans shooting African Americans. I think there were like 30 white people shot in Chicago this year. I mean, that's the demographics are absolutely insane. Let me tell you who I think about when it comes to that. Is I think about the victims behind the curtains. And what I mean by that is they aren't outside protesting and picketing and getting on cameras, but they're people that live in these neighborhoods that are scared to death of these gang members and all this violence. And
They can't go outside.
They're peeking through the blinds. They can't go through outside. And those are the reason that cops have got to do their job. And we've got to ignore all this nonsense. And we've got to get to those people and help them, because there's true victims. And Chicago is probably the worst example of it.
Well, and officers, bless their hearts, I mean, they see it time and time again. The media plays against them. The police department doesn't support them. So I guess as a police department, I would encourage the administrations to really have maybe improve their communication, maybe improve their morale, because those police officers, I wouldn't want to be the next one on 60 Minutes or on the evening news. Of something going wrong. And I feel like the whole Black Lives Matter movement really emboldened being angry and hating. The hate, you can see the hate in those crowds. And that's only going to, it's just a volatile mix. When a person has been energized by a movement like that of hate and discontent and distrust, they're going to run into a police officer. What is that interaction going to be like? That interaction is going to, it's like a time bomb.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say anybody watching in and around Chicago, the police need your help. I mean, the police want to stop this. I mean, this has got to be gut-wrenching for law enforcement to know in their city they're dealing with this, but they can't do it alone. They need the community's help.
They need the community's support.
Right.
And if you're going, if that's what the support that you're going to get is the hate and the distrust and that narrative, then they're at least 50% of the problem.
Right. That's number 10. Number 9.
Are we going to get through 9 more?
We're going to stay all night. Okay. We're going to literally stay all night. I hope you brought your sleeping bag. No, I'll tell my wife I'll be home later. Number 9, the data game. The data game, we have a little video to show you on this.
Does the truth matter? Not to groups like Black Lives Matter. That's tragic for many reasons, not the least of which is that Black lives are being lost as a result. When it comes to the subject of American police, blacks, and the deadly use of force, here is what we know. A recent deadly force study by Washington State University researcher Lois James found that police officers were less likely to shoot unarmed black suspects than unarmed white or Hispanic ones in simulated threat scenarios. Harvard economics professor Roland Fryer analyzed more than 1,000 officer-involved shootings across the country. He concluded that there is zero evidence of racial bias in police shootings. In Houston, he found that blacks were 24% less likely than whites to be shot by officers, even though the suspects were armed or violent. Does the truth matter? An analysis of the Washington Post's police shooting database and of federal crime statistics reveals that fully 12% of all whites and Hispanics who die of homicide are killed by cops. By contrast, only 4% of black homicide victims are killed by cops. But isn't it a sign of bias that blacks make up 26% of police shooting victims, but only 13% of the national population? It is not, and common sense suggests why. Police shootings occur more frequently where officers confront armed or violently resisting suspects. Those suspects are disproportionately black. According to the most recent study by the Department of Justice, although blacks were only about 15% of the population in the 75 largest counties in the U.S., they were charged with 62% of all robberies, 57% of murders, and 45% of assaults. In New York City, blacks commit over 3/4 of all shootings, though they are only 23% of the city's population. Whites, by contrast, commit under 2% of all shootings in the city, though they are 34% of the population. New York's crime disparities are repeated in virtually every racially diverse city in America. The real problem facing inner-city black communities today is not the police, but criminals. In 2014, over 6,000 blacks were murdered, more than all white and Hispanic homicide victims combined. Who is killing them? Not the police and not white civilians, but other blacks. In fact, a police officer is 18.5 times more likely to be killed by a black male than an unarmed black male is to be killed by a police officer. If the police ended all use of lethal force tomorrow, it would have a negligible impact on the black death by homicide rate. In Chicago, through just the first 6.5 months of 2016, over 2,300 people were shot. That's a shooting an hour during some weekends. The vast majority of the victims were black. During the same period, the Chicago police shot 12 people, all armed and dangerous. That's 0.5% of all shootings. Does the truth matter? If it does, here's a truth worth pondering. There is no government agency more dedicated to the proposition that Black lives matter than the police. The proactive policing revolution that began in the mid-1990s has dramatically brought down the inner-city murder rate and saved tens of thousands of black lives. Unfortunately, that crime decline is now in jeopardy. As I write in my book, The War on Cops, police officers are backing off of proactive policing in black neighborhoods thanks to the false narrative that police officers are infected with homicidal bias.
That's Heather McDonald, the author of the new book, The War on Cops. We actually had Heather on our podcast earlier this year. You can listen to that podcast on our podcast section of our website, lawofficer.com. And Dianna, powerful video, very powerful.
Very powerful video. There's a lot of truth. That was how she started out. Does the truth matter?
Yeah.
and it's not the narrative that you're seeing on mainstream media. And a lot of people are being fed things that are untruthful.
Well, the most popular thing that's being fed, what we've tried to educate people about here at Law Officer, is when we collect data, and we ought to collect data from law enforcement, we think that's correct, but it's unfair to collect that data and then only tell half the story, which is what the media does. They'll say, just like she talked about, well, in 2015, the police shot 24% of their shooting victims were black, and they only make up 15% of the population in America. So you obviously, it's a racist profession because you're not shooting people on the exact demographics. Well, let me tell you, if you put that demand on any profession in America, every profession will be seen as racist. Because I guarantee you that banks don't loan money exactly on demographic lines. I guarantee you that people that get health care don't get it on the exact demographic lines. So obviously there are some deep-seated issues on why police are victims at a higher rate. And like she talked about in the video, and like we've talked about here at lawofficer.com, we encounter certain races at a higher rate because certain races are committing more crime. And that's not the fault of the police department.
Well, correct. What percentage of our job is responding to calls for service? And we can't say, we can't control when somebody calls in and says, there is a black male that is doing whatever.
Right.
And the police respond to that call.
Yeah.
And we're looking for a
black male?
Yes.
Yeah. That's just what drives me nuts is we don't dictate who's calling us for help.
Right.
We don't dictate who's getting shot, victims of robbery, but we don't dictate that. We just investigate that. And so when you look at the crime numbers that she gave, sometimes you ask the question, well, how are we only shooting 24%? Because the crime is so out of whack. And let me tell you, that's not the police fault. That really is socioeconomic issues causing a high. And by the way, I feel for the black community. Great people in black communities, but their crime rates are often higher because of lack of education, poverty, whole bunch of socioeconomic issues. Yeah, divided families. A black child today growing up with a single mother, anybody growing up with a single mother is a higher likelihood of having kind of some issues. That's any race, but the black African Americans, that rate is over 75% today growing up with single mothers. And so everything kind of goes haywire. Not that someone can't grow up with a single mother and be great, because I know many of them have. But by the way, man, you got an uphill battle. There's definitely an uphill battle with that.
It's tough. It's tough. And one of the statistics I saw that was the white versus the white shooters versus the population, and then the black shooters versus the black population.
Right.
And I'm sitting here thinking, why is that? Why is it that is it that white children might have more access to education when it comes to firearms? I don't know.
Right.
But that is one of my passions, is to in my new job, is to promote the shooting sports and save the Second Amendment, basically.
Right.
And I want to save the Second Amendment by educating people, because all they hear is the mainstream media, and it's the guns' fault, it's the guns' fault, take the guns away, take the guns away, take the guns away, which I would say that Chicago and Baltimore and everybody who has the highest homicide rates have the strictest gun controls around. So obviously that's not working, and that isn't the issue.
Right.
So
it's criminals with guns. That's the issue. Criminals.
It's criminals breaking the law.
Right.
And then when you further confine the good people from having guns or a way to defend themselves, then you're looking at Chicago.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I want to bring it back to education. I want to get education. We had hunter's education when I was in 6th, 7th grade in PE. We had to do a whole week of hunter education, and that incorporated some firearms education. But that's kind of my next step, is to go to talk to our state legislators and talk about how we get firearms education mandated in schools.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just a no-brainer. It's such a safety issue that everybody needs to know how, at least be told that this is the bad end, and don't touch it. Give them some direction on what it is, and then take the ooh, it's a gun, take that away, and actually take kids to the range. It teaches them responsibility. We have the best kids in our industry, in our sports, in our shooting sports. I'm really proud of them.
Yeah, when it comes to data, this should not go away. We should be reporting on data, but we should report all the data. And that data, by the way, comes from the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice issues demographics of race of who commits crime every year. It's on the FBI's website. It's there. It's free information for any agency to grab. what I would say is release your data, but at the same time release who's committing crime. And so common sense Americans can kind of put context to data, because if you just release a few numbers, data can be taken a whole number of ways, and unfortunately the media is not helping the situation.
Correct. We better get to number 7. What are we on?
You want to go to number 8. We're only at number 8.
Jeez.
By the way, if you're just now joining us, if you pick the number one story, if you put it on Facebook before we get to the number 1 story and you pick it, you're gonna, the first one that does it's gonna get a bottle of Blue Armor Active. You're gonna love this stuff when you get it, so be sure to do that. Number 8 story, body cameras. Okay. Not the cameras you're thinking of. This is police body cameras. And I love this technology, but once again, this technology can be abused, and we've seen that time and time again, and this is how it's abused. If heart surgeons wore a body camera and that footage was released to the public, you know what we would say? What in the world is he doing to that guy? Because guess what? We don't understand surgeons. We'd have no clue what they're supposed to cut, what they're supposed to open up. We don't know that. But police, we release these videos, we give no context, we give no guidelines on what the policies say or tactics, and then we let the public and the media just decide what the video supposedly means. We're kind of making a mistake by doing that. What do you say?
Well, one of the things that the citizens can do, if they're interested, if they want to know and they don't want to just keep making opinions based on what they're being fed, is that they can get on YouTube. It's so easy. Get on YouTube and look at cop stories. Yeah. If you want to understand what cops go through, you know, you can watch cops maybe on TV, but there are some very, very poignant and disturbing videos when it comes to what we see every day. Right. And it's not being kept secret. Just look. Just open your eyes and look.
Yeah, we've posted a couple body cam videos this year on Law Officer Rule 2016 last year. One was in Chicago where the female, unarmed guy, attacks this female and tries to kill her, literally almost killed her. She put her in critical condition hospital, unarmed. So we have video after video of people that are unarmed. That's a big deal, right? Oh my gosh, I shot somebody unarmed. We've seen time and time again where unarmed people literally have killed officers or have tried to kill officers, attempted to kill. So very, very dangerous stuff. In fact, we posted one today about that.
But when you see that, you can't help but internalize, oh, okay, I get it.
Right, of course. It's just seeing the other side of the coin.
Exactly.
And the media so much just shows. The video came out this week with the student being body slammed. I don't know if you saw that, but that was a 2-minute video. How much video did the media release? 9 seconds.
Right.
So you see the last 9 seconds of the, but you don't see these two girls going crazy before it happens, right?
I didn't see that one.
It's just more of the same, and we've got to educate ourselves, which is why we believe this show is important. Number 7, we have a video to show you as we get into number 7.
I don't remember a time like this. I remember the riots in the 1960s and so forth, but the targeting of police officers like this, in every city in the country, things like this are taking place. Notice the President of the United States doesn't say a word. This is so out of control. It is so loathsome. And I blame in part the Democrat Party and the left for creating this environment. No, they're not behind the wheel. No, they're not the snipers. They're not this and that. But they do not speak out the way they should speak out. And, you know, to give voice to people, I don't mean the murderers per se or the would-be murderers, but to give voice to people who are endlessly trashing law enforcement and the cops creates an extremely dangerous, hostile environment.
Want to see more? Sign up for Levin TV.
Okay, that was Mark Levin talking to us about the war on cops, and what has driven me crazy in 2016 is this huge debate. One side, mainly the police, say, hey, there's a war against us. And then the other side, you know, media, activists, whoever goes, how insulting is that? There is no war on cops. Now, before I let you talk about it, because I know you have some things to say, if there were 139 reporters murdered last year in America, do you think reporters would think there was a war against them?
Well,
doing their job, reporters, 139 just taken out. If 5 reporters on the streets today were gunned down by an assassin, do you think reporters would have a little bit different take on what this meant?
I think they would. And you know, it's scary. Where is that coming from? Who is driving? Who is driving mainstream media? Because you're getting it on all 3 major news networks. You're getting the same negativity and you're getting the same kind of propaganda almost.
Well, the Huffington Post came out with an article, and I say don't go there. Stay here at lawster.com. But the article basically said, listen, it's ridiculous to say there's a war on cops because while the police deaths in 2016 were the highest in 5 years, if you look back 30 years, by the way, pre-ballistic vest and everything else, if you look back 30 years, it's relatively low compared to the 70s and 80s. But they're not, that's just one aspect of it. Like 50,000 cops were assaulted last year. Activists were burning cities last year based on, talking about cops. People were chanting in the streets to kill cops. There was
What do we want?
Yeah.
We want dead
right.
cops.
So
What do we want
it's
now?
more than just the numbers, it's the entire environment, the assault against the profession, and people don't seem to understand that. And by the way, when we as police officers say, by the way, there is a war on cops, and by the way, that's nothing new. That's kind of been going on for a long time. People seem to somehow take that, internalize that, and then they put their own meaning behind it, and they say, wait a minute. You said there's a war against cops. That means you're going to roll tanks into our neighborhoods and you're going to treat us like we're terrorists. And they start acting crazy, and that's just absolutely ridiculous. Don't take what we say, twist it around, and say it what meets your agenda, and then blame us for saying it. What we mean is there seems to be a global attack on the profession by the media, by uninformed activists, by politicians, and by the people that have assassinated cops saying they're doing it because they align with this information. I mean, the guy that killed those Dallas cops this year, he said that he was upset by some things that Black Lives Matter said about cops, and so he killed cops down. That wasn't Black Lives Matter that killed him, but it's the rhetoric, the entire rhetoric that's happening. I know you want to say something. It's the entire rhetoric.
And that, good job. And that is what concerns me the most, is that what I heard from the black community is excusing that behavior. There should have been no excuse, and the entire America should have been up in arms from it shouldn't have just been coming from the conservative posts, that the pigs in a blanket, Brian like
Minnesota,
bacon. And it's not,
Yeah.
It's not an isolated
Back
deal.
in the day, if somebody threatened to kill cops, everybody would say, what are you doing?
Right.
Now, they're just silent.
It's accepted.
Right.
It's becoming socially acceptable to hate
Right.
the police.
Right.
And I feel like, you've seen that, and I keep coming back to the black community, but you've seen that in their music for the whole time I was 22 years. It was all about the division between the black community and the police. And the kids are listening to that. And
well, let me say this,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
because I want to put some context on what we're talking about. The vast majority of people in the black community, the vast majority of people that say that they think Black Lives Matter, they're with the police. They support the police.
Beyonce.
But there's a small percentage of people that are very loud, very vocal, and what they say is being accepted by many.
Well, look at Beyonce.
I don't look much at it.
How powerful are celebrities these days? And you have celebrities that, it goes back to music, what I was talking about. She has a definite anti-police, several different songs.
Right.
Plus, they're, very vulgar. Some of them are very vulgar songs. So, I would like to say, let's clean up some of that stuff too.
Yeah, it's not healthy. There's already a violence problem in the minority communities in America. The music doesn't help. The art doesn't help. Hey, it's their right. It's First Amendment right. We'll be the last ones to deny them doing it. But I don't think when we see close to 800 homicides in Chicago, the top 25 cities in America, homicide rates are up more than they've been since the 70s. I don't think this is healthy for our youth. I really don't. And I think someone's got to step in and say enough.
And I would challenge the celebrities and the people that you are influencing.
And by the way, something else we've experienced here, and I've experienced it personally as well. When you start speaking about these issues that are true, everything we've said has been true. Well, we get called names. We get called racist. We get called. Listen, quit hiding behind it. Quit hiding behind calling people the R word. Let's deal with the issues. And the issues are this: police have been treated horribly by the media, by certain activists. We've posted videos on it where you're threatening to kill cops. It's just, let's stop that. And by the way, where's the latest controversial police shooting? Have you seen that since July or August? No. I mean, we've had millions of contacts around this country, so let's put some truth to it. Just like we talked about the data earlier, we need to put truth in here and quit misleading people. And I don't understand the divide of war on cops. Okay, maybe you don't like the word war. I'm sorry, but there's been more police
being
officers.
attacked.
Yeah, there's been more police officers that's been killed on American soil since 9/11 than the military in Afghanistan since 9/11. So everyone called that a war. Right. Nobody has a problem with that, but because it's on our soil, they have a concern. That doesn't mean we're going to get in tanks and put on riot gear and march with grenade launchers into communities. That's not what we're saying. We're not. This isn't an international war,
Well,
but there's certainly an attack against the profession by some people.
We also need the communities to stand up, and it's hard, it's difficult,
Right.
it's scary, but we need them to stand up and say no more.
Please, yes.
And this, we're taking it back and work with the police department. And you know, the opposite of what I feel like I see from the Black Lives Matter, I feel like it's a hate group. I want to see a love group. I want to see the black community respond with a love group.
I will say this, we had an article on our website earlier this year called Black Lives Matter more than policing anybody, and I believe that. We are the ones that are trying to rid the neighborhoods of violence. We are the ones that answer the 911 calls.
It's not race. It's not race. We are there for the good.
Right.
And embrace the good or embrace the bad.
Right. So I can't stand talking about racial stuff and this and that and BLM, but you know what? It was what 2016 was. There was so much hatred and divisiveness toward the profession.
Let's come back
has
together.
to be talked about it. Yeah, I'm for it. I'm for
it.
Number 6. Oh man, one more. Former Chicago police chief blames Black Lives Matter for their rise in crime.
Well, we kind of covered that.
Yeah, interesting. We did cover that. We're not going to talk about it long, but he has been probably the highest profile person that's come out and said that. Said it. Yeah. And by the way, I want to make sure everybody knows where I'm coming from on here, because I know a lot of people where I work that identify with Black Lives Matter. Man, there's some great people. Young people especially, I think, want to have a cause. They want to be a part of something to make a difference, and I applaud that. I think what gives them a bad name is what we see in marches in Minneapolis and the national spokespeople, you know, that kind of get in front of microphones. And I think by associating yourself with that name, that there really is a kind of a negative connotation with that.
I kind of expect that from the protesters and then the big names, the people who are trying to stir the pot.
Right.
But what disturbs me, like I spoke earlier, is that I heard so many people, talking about this and excusing it. I understand where they're coming from. Well, that's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, I actually
I don't care what color you are. You don't condone that.
I haven't told.
Well, I don't condone that, but I can understand.
Yeah. I haven't told this story publicly, but why not do tonight?
Why not? Because it's the best show
ever. I had a female politician look me in the eye and said, "You know what, Travis? That guy that killed those 5 Dallas area cops, I get where he was coming from."
That's what I'm talking about.
And which I said, we can no longer speak again. Because if you feel that way, you're a hateful, evil, probably racist person.
Embracing
I cannot
the
associate with people like that. That's an evil thought. And by the way, to verbalize that.
But she's heard other people say it, and that's exactly what I was talking about. That, okay, well, maybe I can say that. Maybe I can really say that
you're hateful, you're evil, and you're racist by saying things like that. And as a law enforcement officer, we can't associate with people like that, no matter what you look like or who you are or what your political affiliation you are. And so
that's what scares me is that there was more support. I felt like there was more smoldering support for the Black Lives Matter movement than there really was for the police officers.
I don't agree with you, but we can disagree. Okay. I think the media pumped the Black Lives Matter side up to make it seem that way. I think there's a lot of support for law enforcement. I do.
I do too.
But
for an average Joe, of a black person to say, that they're educated, they're a commentator or something like that, and I'm just like, don't give these guys any legitimacy.
Right.
You can't say that you understand it.
Yeah, hopefully we have some stories that's not Black Lives Matter here in a minute. What do we got? We got number 5.
What is it?
The IACP apology. We have a quick video for you. We'll show you that.
Okay.
That I believe will help both our profession and our communities. The history of the law enforcement profession is replete with examples of bravery, self-sacrifice, and service to the community. At its core, policing is a noble profession made up of men and women who are sworn to place themselves between the innocent and those who seek to do them harm. Over the years, thousands of police officers have laid down their lives for their fellow citizens, while hundreds of thousands more have been injured while protecting their communities. The nation owes all of these officers, as well as those who are still in patrol today, an enormous debt of gratitude. At the same time, however, it is also clear that the history of policing has had darker periods. There have been times when law enforcement officers, because of the laws enacted by federal, state, and local governments, have been the face of oppression to far too many of our fellow citizens. In the past, the laws adopted by our society have required police officers to perform many unpalatable tasks, such as ensuring legalized discrimination or even denying the basic rights of citizenship to many of our fellow Americans. While this is no longer the case, this dark side of our shared history has created a generational, almost inherited mistrust between many communities of color and the law enforcement agencies they serve them. Many officers who do not share this common heritage often struggle to comprehend the reasons behind this historic mistrust. As a result, they are often unable to bridge this gap and connect with some segments of their communities. While we obviously cannot change the past, it is also clear that we must change the future. We must move forward together to build a shared understanding. We must forge a path that allows us to move beyond our history and identify common solutions to better protect our communities. For our part, the first step in this process is for the law enforcement profession and the IACP to acknowledge and apologize for the actions of the past and the role that our profession has played in society's historical mistreatment of communities of color.
That was very controversial this year. The IACP president is apologizing for the historical mistreatment of minorities at their national conference. Dianna, what do you think about that?
It's I don't know. I feel like we're ripping the Band-Aids off of wounds that are healing, and I don't think it's a good thing. I'm not saying to turn a blind eye and rewrite history. I'm just saying that let's talk and let's focus on going forward together and the things that have improved. This is the best. This is the best country on the face of this planet for human rights, racial, coming together. It's
right.
Just a melting pot. So I don't understand. I don't know what to do for it.
Well, I can tell you a lot of people in our audience were upset by that, and I disagree with them. I disagreed a little bit with Dianna. I didn't mind it, but my question would be, okay, you've said you're sorry. Now let's do something about it. Let's move forward. Let's extend the olive branch, get with our communities, push programs to help our law enforcement officers, and I believe ICP is hopefully working on that. It didn't bother me at all, even though we had nothing to do with that historical mistreatment. It doesn't bother me. I think it's really important for us to move law enforcement into a world where we don't have to keep talking about these issues. Maybe in 2017, in a year, I don't think so. And maybe in 2017, in a year, like these issues, we don't even talk about them because we've improved so much. And that community policing has the community and the police together solving problems. I mean, we all want that, right?
We do.
All right, number 4. This is probably my favorite story, but the editorial team chose otherwise for the number 1 story. Number 4, respect for the police surges to an all-time high, while respect for the media is at an all-time low. And by the way, this is a valid study. This is the Gallup poll that's been doing this for 3 decades. And this is pretty incredible because if you just watch mainstream media, man, you would think that law enforcement is just like a bunch of crazy people that the people can't stand. But the Gallup poll showed us something completely different. What do you think?
Well, I did not know that we were at an all-time high, but I know for a fact that media is at an all-time low. I mean,
actually, there was one group lower than them.
What was that?
Congress.
Wow, yeah, that's justified as well.
Yeah.
But all of the email and the WikiLeaks that happened and
it exposed them.
It exposed who they are, and I'm like, I understand that the if Russia is behind it, which I guess that's still up in the air. If Russia was behind it, and China, I know everybody's trying to hack us. And I know that's a security issue, but when it comes to these politicians, I don't care which side of the aisle they're on, I'm like, hack them all.
People tend to forget that Russia didn't hack a government server.
Right.
They hacked a dude's
Private server, which was a crime.
A dude's Gmail server where his password was password.
Yeah.
Boy, them Russians, they're pretty ingenious, aren't they?
Yeah.
A 12-year-old could have hacked that. I mean, we all know that.
14, come on,
Sorry,
don't go
okay.
crazy.
But I love this study because for law enforcement, it was a big morale booster because I've always talked about the 10%. I say, hey, 10% are going to hate you no matter what you do. Well, the Gallup poll actually said, that's 7. 7% say they're so dissatisfied with police, they're just 7%. The rest, all-time high. By the way, that's all races. Minorities, all-time high respect. Why? Because the media's telling us something completely different. So what that tells me is we're on the right track. We need to keep improving, and keep going.
Yeah.
I love it.
And to our police officers, hey, smile, be nice until it's not time. It's time to not be nice.
When you go to Chick-fil-A for your lunch, notice how they treat you.
Yeah.
My pleasure, sir. Maybe we should do that a little more, and you never know. That's going to be even a higher number come next year, right?
I agree completely.
Nice.
This is all about our attitude as well
Yeah.
when we walk up there.
Hey,
So
listen.
we can do things too.
Yeah, if we have anything to offer our audience, which is a lot of law enforcement officers, is we kind of have a customer service problem. I mean, sometimes we're kind of, yes, just the facts, ma'am.
Who likes to be pulled over?
Right.
I've been pulled over,
So-
and I'm like, you are not
Right.
a nice person.
Right. But we all know those traffic officers that pull people over all day and they never get complained on because they have the personality for it.
Right.
And I think we owe it to the community just to be as polite as we can, even in situations that are kind of bad for people.
And really put effort into your job.
Yeah.
Don't it's like treat every citizen like you would want your mother to be treated.
Yeah, unless you don't like your mother.
True.
Okay, number 3. Number 3, probably some people probably picked this one for number 1, but it's number 3. Dallas police ambush kills 5 area officers. Boy, brutal week that was. By the way, it was followed up with the death of 3 Baton Rouge officers, area officers. What a horrible week for law enforcement. By the way, on our website that week, the all-time most trafficked week in our history. It was just incredible what was going on. Those that don't remember, it was a Black Lives Matter rally in downtown Dallas. Very typically friendly crowd. Police were interacting with them. We were actually monitoring here in our office live. It was going very well. All of a sudden, shots rang out. And
did he not say that he was inspired by Black
he said
Lives
he was
Matter?
inspired by it, and he was on top of a high rise with a rifle, and ended up killing 5 police officers. The Dallas police chief used a robot to blow him up, basically, and in that. But a very tragic time, and it was just incredibly sad. We know many Dallas officers, of course, and I think it really gave police a perspective of kind of what they have to face out there.
Well, and that ties into the war on police.
Well, yeah, I mean,
It's really the pinnacle. It was really the pinnacle of the war on police that 5 of us were targeted intentionally on one day.
Yeah, and people will say to me, well, listen, police is not considered the most dangerous job. It's usually loggers. Well, the difference is people are not assassinating loggers from 200 yards away. I mean,
trees aren't intentionally falling on you.
Right. Those are accidental deaths. So the difference is police are targeted because of their uniform. They're targeted because of who they are.
It's racism. It's
color.
Discrimination. It's based on color. Discrimination based on color.
When we go into restaurants and we get reports weekly, and you see them on our website, lawofficer.com, of people spitting in police officers' food and doing things to their food, that does not happen to any other segment of society. Mm-hmm. By the way, if it did, if a black family would go into a restaurant and people spit in their food, do you not think that the hand of the federal government would not come down that restaurant? Rightfully so. Of course it would. But it happens to cops on a daily basis around this country, and maybe it makes the paper, maybe it doesn't. It's just ridiculous.
Well, and hopefully we see these the crimes against police officers are hate crimes.
No question about it. And Texas is actually trying to pass that bill, but there's no question about it. People are committing crimes against the police officer, not because of they're the individual, it's because of the profession that they do.
Their uniform.
And
their
what
color.
they represent.
Their
It's what
blue
they represent.
Color.
So, man, we love to see that tide turn in 2017. We're going to do everything we can here at Law Officer to make sure
We're
that...
going to come together and love.
I think so. I really think so. It starts right here. Well, before we get to number 2 and number 1, tell us what you're into. I know you talked about a phone app, some other things you're kind of involved in. Kind of tell us about that.
I'm not involved with it at all, but as a retired police officer, I was talking to an acquaintance, and he was telling me about this app, and it's called 1021.
Yep.
And basically what it allows you to do, it's a free app, 1021, and that is our most, since he named it 1021, most people telephone call
Yeah,
is our 10 code.
that's right.
So it was ours, so I knew what he was
He
talking
took a
about.
chance there, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
I
it may
think
not
he
have been
did.
a 10
He
code
didn't know
everywhere.
that. I told him, I said, it's not 1021 everywhere. But basically what he has the technology to basically give your phone a different phone number. And so I go out and I take a burglary report from you, and you have to call me back a little bit later, but I don't have a business phone, I don't have a city phone. So basically this app gives me the opportunity to give you a phone number to
Right.
call me back, or I can call you.
Right.
And it's basically just a duplicate phone number and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
And they also have a kind of an undercover type technology of the same thing. It's called Callio, Callyo. And Callio is for departments to actually purchase. And basically, I would say, like, your undercover, your narcotics, bigger investigative units would
Right.
use it. And basically, it turns your phone into instead of wearing a body mic and having a transmitter.
So you
and
go
have
into
to be
undercover
close,
operations with your
it's
phone.
all through your phone.
Nice.
So if you want to look up that, I will get you the phone number for a guy that can.
Yeah, we have it on the screen right there. Pretty sweet.
Do you?
I think so.
All right, awesome.
We have professionals behind the scenes here.
Awesome.
That's good stuff.
But yeah, I was like, how brilliant is that? And
Yeah, we actually, if anybody's interested in reading more about that, we have an article on our website on 1021. Just go into our search button, type in 1021. We had an author send that article in 6 or 7 months ago. Very popular article. A lot of people are using it. It's good stuff.
yeah, and
And
Callio.
you were skiing with this guy, right?
Yeah.
Is there a
Callio.
story behind that?
No, just a mutual friend. We were both in the same place at the same time.
Nice.
And he knew I was a retired law enforcement, and he told me about this as one of his many endeavors. But the Callio side is for the department-wise, and it's actually purchased through the department, and then the department uses it as.
Great.
Yeah.
We need to get our sales team to call him up and get a
I
little
think so.
advertising
I was
going
going to call
Yeah.
somebody. I don't know where you're working
need
these
to do
days,
it.
but
Number two story at lawofficer.com for 2016. Police ambushes are the highest in 20 years. I hate the fact that this is a story, but we had over 21 police ambushes this year. That's the highest we've seen in 20 years. And man, that's gut-wrenching to talk about, isn't it?
yeah, it is. And I think we've kind of covered that, but it breaks my heart to see what's happened to our country and our police officers, our brothers and sisters in blue.
Right. Well, listen, we're going to turn the tide. I mean, we're going to do everything we can here at Law Officer this year to give our first responders the right resources, the tools, even the training. We're bringing webinars to you guys and gals because we know there's many officers out there that struggle with training hours. So we're going to bring you some quality training and really try to empower people because we want to see all of this bad stuff stop happening. And I believe it can stop happening.
And training actually improves morale for police officers. I mean, I can remember the last several years that I was working, we didn't have a whole lot of we had the mandatory in-service training, and that was it. You couldn't learn about writing search warrants. You couldn't learn it. You couldn't go practice some force on force. You couldn't go, and those kind of things that you just come away with them inspired.
Right. Number one story. I know you know what it is, so don't give it up. Any last-minute guesses on Facebook? Number one story. If you get the story right, we're going to send you a free bottle of Blue Armor Active. It's the only supplement company for law enforcement. I think you can see it in there. For law enforcement. We love them as a partner. Number one story. We have a video for you, so let's watch the video.
You know, my uncle was a cop, a career cop, on the beat in downtown Chicago. He was my hero when I was growing up. When we go up to visit my dad's family in Chicago, my three brothers and I would marvel at my uncle when he would come out in his uniform, sidearm at his. Police officers are the best of us. I mean, men and women, white, African American, Asian, Latino, Hispanic, they put their lives on the line every single day. And let me say, at the risk of agreeing with you, community policing is a great idea. It's worked in the Hoosier State, and we fully support that. Donald Trump and I are going to make sure that law enforcement have the resources and the tools to be able to really restore law and order to the cities and communities of this nation.
That's Vice President-elect Mike Pence talking about the police officers are the best in us. And we actually saw Donald Trump, the incoming president, say on many occasions that he acknowledged the war against cops and it was his priority to stop it. He ran as the law and order candidate, really in a year where it probably didn't benefit him, so-called. So, but he truly ran on that platform. He, of course, won the election. Take California out of it, he won by a lot, but you add California, it's a little closer. Boy, that's a big-time story for law enforcement because with him comes Supreme Court justice nominees, conservative judges. There's over 100 federal appointees waiting on him that are typically pro-law enforcement from the conservative side. Huge, huge story that will impact law enforcement really on day one.
Well, I was so relieved on so many different levels. I wasn't necessarily a Trumper from the beginning, but I certainly
is that a thing? Trumper? I like it.
Well, Trump train. I wasn't on the Trump train from the beginning, but I was never a Trumper. So I was like anti-politics. I was tired. I felt like the whole system was broken. So I'm like, we can't do any worse than what's going on. It's gridlock, it's divisiveness, it's hate. And I was like, put somebody in there who isn't a career politician. Yeah. Let's give him a shot. So I really hope that, I know there's a lot of sore losers out there, and I really hope that I didn't like it 8 years ago because I didn't appreciate the progressive left thinking that Barack Obama was. But honestly, I sat there and I said, just shut your mouth and give him a chance. Right. Maybe you're wrong. Well, I cried 4 years later when he got reelected, but because I felt like he had proven me right in my mind. So I was relieved on so many different levels. The police level is only one because he did make America safe again. Make America great again, make America safe again. And it was just refreshing to hear somebody speak from that level and support us, because that's not what we've been getting over the past 8 years.
Yeah, it looks like it could be a very stark difference for law enforcement. And man, he's made some pretty bold statements. He's going to go into some of the minority communities and he's going to try to curb some of the violence and the crime. And how do you think he's going to accomplish that? I have my own theory, but what do you think as a President Trump, when he says, I want to reduce violence in minority communities and communities in general, what do you think the power he has to do that? Where's that going to come from?
He's probably going to go into the communities. Yeah. He did that when he didn't get reported on extensively, but just going in there and being seen and letting them speak to you, and so all of the name calling and the sexist, the racist, the misogynist, the
I had to look up
xenophobia. I did too. I didn't know what a misogynist was, so I was like, "This is a misogynist," or anyway. I think that what's he going to do? Maybe he's going to tweet.
Well, I will say this:
he gets a lot of heat from that.
From his position, he could open up a lot of funding for resources, for technology, for more police officers. Bill Clinton did that. Lowest crime in America's history was really the 90s. Bill Clinton era, Bill Clinton politics. Wasn't a huge Bill Clinton fan, but you have to admit that some of his policies really reduced crime. That seems controversial sometimes today, but one thing he did was a COPS program where he added thousands of police officers on the streets of America, and it seemed to work.
He talked about immigration too.
He sure did.
The insane speech that Donald Trump is getting crucified for.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, and the interesting thing with President-elect Trump is he is getting crucified for his talking immigration, but you know what he's saying? All he's saying is this: we're going to enforce the current law.
Yeah.
The current law. By the way, just the President Obama has deported 3 million illegals because he followed partially the law. So to say it's controversial to enforce current law is odd. People just aren't being informed because he's not going to add laws. He's just going to enforce the current laws.
And how is it that in America that it's acceptable to have a government agency basically advocate not enforcing the law? Why is America not upset about that? Why are these sanctuary cities, why do they exist?
Well,
why are those residents not?
I would certainly be upset if I was a victim of a crime.
Yeah.
Or my daughter was killed like happened in San Francisco.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
We reported a story earlier this week where a guy had been deported 19 times before he raped and murdered a little girl. 19 times. So something's broken. Certainly hope he can fix it. Good luck to him. There's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on in Washington, D.C. I think he was different than what we had seen, and I was just pleased that it seemed like him talking about law and order and safety really resonated with the same group of people that gave us the highest ratings ever on the Gallup poll. So we'll see.
And elected him.
They sure did. Sure did. It wasn't the Russians, was it? It was
I
the
don't
Americans.
think so.
The Russians didn't hack election booths.
Right.
They just hacked coward,
Well, we
corrupt
don't know
email
that.
accounts.
We're told that, but
We don't really know, do we?
I'm
Yeah.
still of the
Yeah.
opinion that I don't
Well,
know.
what's interesting to me, not that the Russians is really part of our story, but what's interesting to me is within like 3 days, we had confirmed with the report the Russians did it.
100%.
And by the way, this is the same group of people that tells us it will be 70 years before Hillary Clinton's emails can be released because they just don't have the resources to do it.
Right.
So 70 years to release her government emails on open records request, 70 years, but 3 days we can, for sure, it's the Russians.
Right.
Odd. I mean, the Chinese attempted to hack us 23 million times last year. Did we kick out any Chinese people out of our country?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. Right. So.
Well, Russia invaded Syria,
Yeah.
Crimea.
Call me a pessimist, but I think there may be some politics behind this.
I
right?
know.
So what are you going to do? Listen, that's 2016. 2017 is going to be bigger and better. We got a little bit more time. Tell me what you're going to do in 2017. Besides come on the show a whole bunch and party up with
Well,
us.
more of the same. I'm going to shoot matches. I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. I'm going to meet my legislators.
You doing the big
I'm
march?
Going to,
Doing the big march this year?
No big march. It was a rally. It
Come
wasn't a
on, call it a march.
No, we didn't go anywhere. We stayed right there and right in front of Paul Ryan's office in the Capitol. But it's just more of the same. But
Did you see Paul Ryan?
No.
Because his hair is crazy. How does he have that kind of hair?
Well, you can't talk about hair when you got Donald Trump coming in as president.
That's true. No doubt about it.
Yeah. No, but 2017's looking like that it's going to be another great year for me. And
Great.
My husband and I are going to travel the country and
Have fun.
And shoot. So
Where can people follow you at? Go on
follow
Facebook?
us follow us on Facebook. Dianna Muller. You want to spell it for him? Dianna Muller 3-Gun. And that's what I am on Facebook. And my husband is Ryan Muller, competitive shooter.
Nice.
On Facebook. And yeah.
They post fun stuff, so check them out.
Yeah, last night we got a new trailer and we broke out the window in the truck, in the back of the truck.
So trailer's going to have
turning
all
too
kinds
sharp.
of advertising on it, Law Officer Live, all this kind of stuff. It's
Oh
going to
yeah,
be great.
it's huge out across the back.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
I'll tell you how much that costs.
We got some cool stuff going on with us next year. Obviously, we have our recruiting section of our website where we're really helping departments recruit. You go onto our website, go to the top, go to find a job, list your job listings. We've got free services, and we have an incredible service where we actually will include departments recruiting web pages into our audience and our network. So you're spending thousands of dollars to travel the country to try to recruit people, and we can do it for you mobile right into their homes. So that's pretty cool. We've got several departments that we're talking to about that. A couple big departments just came on board with us. But we're gonna come out with some interesting, unique training that our audience is gonna get to see. We're gonna be using some webinars for that. And we've got some stuff on business practices and law enforcement that's gonna, I think, blow you away. So we can't wait to talk about that in regards to how law enforcement can treat themselves more like a business and be more efficient. So it's gonna be pretty cool.
Well, kudos for providing the services that you do and things for the law enforcement officer.
All right. This is Dianna Muller. Look at that. That's good, right?
Just say Lydorf.
Dianna Muller.
Muller.
Let me back up the tape.
Like
We don't
Fuller.
even use tape anymore. What am I talking about?
I don't know.
Dianna, 3-Gun. Check her out. On her TV show, Outdoor Channel. Good stuff. What's the TV show called?
Shooting Gallery.
Shooting Gallery.
Shooting Gallery, and right now you can watch my husband compete on Thursday nights on the Sportsman's Channels. There's a TV show called The Big Gun.
You do not want to burglarize their home.
No, you don't. It's an
Yeah,
elimination. It's an elimination deal. So
Do you know who won?
I do.
Why don't you just go and announce it?
I can't.
Are you on Netflix yet?
Not yet.
You're coming, though. Netflix coming. Netflix documentary.
2020.
Maybe we'll produce it. You've been watching Law Officer Live. Welcome to 2017. We can't wait to spend the year with you. Check us out, lawofficer.com. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So we'll keep